we've got an earnings alert on Tesla. The stock is surging, hitting after-hours highs after reporting a surprise profit for the quarter. Phil LeBeau's got all the details. Phil, what a big move.
It is a nice move, Melissa. And when you look at the earnings report, remember the expectation, and they're all over the place with Tesla. It's still not one of those stocks you look at and say, yeah, this is pretty much what people are expecting. People were expecting them to lose 36 cents a share. They ended up earning a profit of $1.24 a share. No change in the production guidance from Tesla. This is all about what they're planning to do in terms of deliveries this year. And I know there are people who sit there and say, well, they haven't changed their guidance in delivery, so that's good news. There was simply no mention of this. Not a reiteration that they plan to deliver at least 500,000 vehicles. They did deliver 88,496 vehicles in Q1. By the way, that was a number that was out there since they reported deliveries at the end of March, Q1 delivery. So we were not expecting a surprise there. A few people had it at 89,000. A couple other numbers to focus on from the first quarter. Cash on hand, remember they had the capital raise in the quarter, $8.1 billion. Automotive gross margins, 25.5%. And the profit guidance for now is on hold. A few people are also talking about the fact that the free cash flow was negative $895 million. And one last note, guys, has to do with the Tesla semi-truck. First deliveries, which were scheduled to begin at the end of this year, not going to happen. They're going to push that out until 2021. I know that guy was hoping to see one of these bad boys out on the road, driving all over the place in New Jersey, but that is not going to be the case for some time. Those deliveries pushed out to 2021. Melissa, back to you.
Phil, thank you. Phil LeBeau in Chicago with the latest on Tesla and this 10% move at this point, Guy. Guy, can you wrap your head around why the stock is up 10% on this report?
Can I wrap my head around it, given this environment?
Can you think of why?
No, I think because, you know, the fact that they're actually making money now, I mean, their cash flow is better. I mean, it's incredible, the seemingly turnaround out of nowhere that they've pulled off. Full disclosure, and I think people watching know absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong with this stock for the last, I don't know, $400, $500 or so. You know, I got it up to $320, but up to $900, that's completely out of my bailiwick. I mean, it's just the world we live in. I mean, people have cut them slack, and now they're sort of delivering on the back end. So good for Tesla, bad for me.
It's about $90 below its all-time high in the after-hour session. Pete Najarian, how would you think about Tesla? And I know you've got calls and a competitor.
Yep.
A quote-unquote competitor.
Yeah, quote-unquote competitor, yes. You know, the interesting part about this name is I've been very lucky a couple of times, only because the options world has actually dragged me in there. Because, like Guy, I look at this stock, and you look at it, and you have a really hard time breaking it down. How do you actually analyze it? But I think the one thing that's helped me out a little bit over the years, and actually thanks to Gene Munster, years ago, he and I were talking about this stock, and one of the things that stuck out for me, and I've used this ever since in terms of my description of Tesla, is it's a tech company. It's not a car company. Now, everybody will push back and say, hey, well, why do you care about how many got delivered and all the rest of that? I get all of that. But when I look at this the way I look at Apple and the iPhone, and that's the hardware. And then on this is the automobile for Tesla. It makes a lot of sense. They've got the expensive version. They got the cheaper version. They've got all of this technology with the battery and all the data that they've collected. And when you get in there, you're literally sitting in a computer as you're driving. So for that reason, I continue to look at it more as a tech name. That's helped me out because there have been times where I've been able to be bullish on this name, despite the fact that I realize that their market cap is significantly different and significantly better than GM, than Ford, than some of their competition that's out there in the auto industry.
I get that argument on paper, but when you really think about it, the difference is that Apple makes money off of services. Tesla doesn't make money per se off an over-the-air update to its software in a car that it has sold.
Right. You're exactly right on that perspective. But think about how long it took before Apple actually started getting into the services, then got into the wearables and all the rest of that. There might be something more to come, I think, in Tesla. But for now, I agree with you, Mel. And it's hard to really you try to break down this stock in so many different ways, but that's been the only way that's actually helped me out, because there have been times when I've been able to be bullish on this stock. Right now, I haven't touched the stock probably at least 200 points. But I had a couple of runs on the way up here that I was happy with.
Right.
But it's so hard to get your arms around what this company really is.
All right, maybe Gene will help us. Loup Ventures Gene Munster joins us again. Gene, what's your take on this 9% move And if you take a look at the chart, it is a V-shaped recovery for Tesla stock.
And Melissa, I think it's actually going to be going higher. It's $160 billion capital market cap today. But if you think about the future mobility and transportation, despite all of its issues around Elon's behavior and everything that people can point to as the negatives on Tesla, I think that this company is fundamentally changing how people move around. I want to enumerate why I believe that the stock is up. There are three basic takeaways. First, free cash flow was negative, much worse than people had expected, but that was because of channel inventory build. Basically, they weren't able to deliver at the end of the quarter. That's understandable, so you give them a pass. The second is they basically cashed in a bunch of EV tax credits. These are essentially other automotive companies that aren't producing enough electrical vehicles have to basically pay Tesla to get through regulatory hoops. And those tax credits triggered a profit in the quarter. This is the fourth consecutive quarter with a profit, which is one of the hurdles to be inducted into the S&P 500. It is likely that they will be added to that. I think that is in part moving the stock. And then the third thing is some encrypted language around deliveries and production. There is a distinction between actually reiterating their delivery guidance and saying that they can produce enough to deliver. Those are very different comments. But I think what one can take away is the street's at 403,000 deliveries for the year. Many have thought that that was in jeopardy given everything that's going on. But my sense is now that they will probably fall short of that original 500,000, but comfortably exceed that 403,000. When you put all of this together and think about the future of Tesla, what does this ultimately mean? Is that the traditional car, to use that as an analog, is a trap. And to think about how, as Pete was saying, as the car as a computer, to think about that piece, and eventually they will find ways to make money off services and software. I think this is an undervalued story. One
last question, Gene, because you mentioned the credits, and I believe it's, $340 million in credits, and that's not recurring. That's not recurring. It's sort of a one-off thing. So does that meet the criteria of S&P 500? I mean, from your standpoint, if you had to put a percent probability of Tesla being included in the S&P 500 by the end of the year, how high would that probability be?
60%.
60%. Okay, interesting.
I think they're going to get there. 6-0.
All right, Gene, thank you. Always
more
great
than
to
half.
get your analysis. Gene Munster of Loup Ventures. Is that a reason to buy the stock, Guy?
Clearly the reason to buy the stock was years ago. And remember the test drive we had at Short Hills Mall? I mean,
that's right. We went to the Cheesecake Factory, sat in front of the fireplace.
Went to the
had
Cheesecake
the
Factory.
Yeah. Good times.
So that was the reason. I mean, being added to the S&P 500. Look, I'll say it again. I clearly have no clue when it comes to Tesla. So if you've been long the stock, God bless you. See what happens at all-time highs. And it's become one of those things where you just can't get in the way. So I'm not gonna.